Welcome back to Saturday Morning Glory. Today I look back at a childhood favorite, or rather the new version of it, which makes me feel old with how little I understand it. But before I tell you what it is, here's a pop quiz. Quick, what do you think of when you see these names? Congratulations, you are old. You see, to everyone who was born after 1984, these names refer to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and nothing else. Three of those guys are still pretty well known for their own stuff, but you've got to feel sorry for Donatello. The man did his own version of the David, and he's still best known as the guy who does machines. Well, in case you don't know, 1984 was the year Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird self-published the very first issue of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was a black and white comic mainly parodying Frank Miller's Ronin and Elektra. It became known for its graphic violence, this being a year before Watchmen made that kind of thing standard issue in comics. For some reason, somebody decided the Turtles were perfect material for a kids' cartoon show, which began airing on CBS in 1987, and I loved it. Hey, I was 3 years old. I still thought jangling keys were kind of entertaining. Well, actually, I have gone back and watched a few episodes more recently, and for what it is, the show still kind of holds up. It clearly wasn't meant to be taken seriously at all, and for a junk food kiddie action show, you could do a lot worse. And of course, it's hilarious knowing that Shredder is voiced by Uncle Phil.
Wait. Hit the bricks, you little tramp!
The franchise was kept alive afterwards through a movie series which quickly went down the drain.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go! Go Ninja, go Ninja, go!
And through a live-action series called The Next Mutation, which introduced a female turtle named Venus, who everyone hated. The show barely lasted one season, but at least they were able to sneak in an insane crossover episode with the Power Rangers. Which brings us to the 2003 series of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Nickelodeon picked up the rights and decided to go in the direction that a lot of kids' cartoons are going these days, which is they made the show a lot more sophisticated than previous versions with serious attempts at characterization and long-term story arcs. Now, normally I would be completely behind this sort of thing, but the show is called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's not exactly a concept begging for a serious treatment. And from what I've seen of the show, it falls on its face more often than not, so the odds were really against today's episode, H.A.T.E. Put those letters together and you get a good idea why. The episode begins during a scene we'll be catching up to later on. This is a plot device also known as in media res, or the alias opening. The show did it a lot, and personally this hardly ever works for me. It just seems desperate, like they think we don't have an attention span and they have to throw in cheap action scenes to keep us interested. And when you think about it, this is really just the modern version of the way they put clips before each episode of Mr. T.
Catch the action. Catch the mystery.
And then it's off to the theme song. Let me just say, I have nothing but respect for the people who wrote the original cartoon's theme song. They were given quite possibly the worst title you could ever be asked to build a song around, and they really made it work.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles! Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles! Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles! Heroes in a half shell! Turtle power!
As for the new credits, well, just watch.
Mutant chain reaction, living underground. Jutsu action, it's a shell of a town.
Catch the awkward CGI. Believe it or not, because I sure didn't, these are supposed to be April O'Neil and Casey Jones. And to make it even more awkward, April is voiced by Ash from Pokemon.
Sure is beautiful up here this time of year.
Ooh, I feel unclean now.
It's nice to get away from the city after all we've been through.
And as for that voice, well...
Very good, Daria. Almost suspiciously good. Esteem? A teen. They don't really rhyme, do they?
The man definitely has range. As for the Turtles, Raphael and Michelangelo are having an archery contest in shooting apples off of Donatello's head. This actually happens.
That's it. After 20 consecutive double bullseyes, I'm officially declaring this contest a tie.
That's right, Donatello just stood there and let them shoot arrows directly at his head 20 times. I've seen some doormat characters in my time, but this may be a new low. And it sucks for me to see Raphael portrayed this way because he was always my favorite. In fact, I liked him so much that all those wimpy little plastic sighs were never good enough for me, so boom! Oh, you better believe I was the coolest kid in school. The plot arrives with the guy who's badly wounded and mumbling about an attack on the city. It turns out he's being hunted down by members of a racist pseudo-militia group, and in case you didn't get the acronym before, this next bit of dialogue should clear things up.
We're humans against the extraterrestrials, and as a member of H.A.T.E, Michael knew the rules. Our cause is a lifelong commitment.
Yes, HATE stands for Humans Against the Extraterrestrials. Okay, maybe they're racist and dyslexic. Also, is it just me, or is Skunk wearing a no ma'am shirt? To reiterate, we're now dealing with people named Skunk and Puke, who are part of a racist group that's literally called HATE. See, this kind of thing the old show might have gotten away with, but once you start asking us to take things seriously, you lose that privilege. See, in the real world, people don't just say they're racist for its own sake. They try to justify it by saying it's better for the economy or national security or whatever to get rid of the group they're against.
Your green Martian bud is mine.
So, making your racist group into a bunch of obviously evil people doesn't really teach anyone anything. Raphael fights them for a while, and they actually make a cliffhanger act break of him about to get killed. This is despite us knowing 2 of the other turtles are in the immediate vicinity. Actually, it's kind of a mystery as to why they haven't stepped in already. And see if you can figure this one out. Michelangelo is up in a tree, gets a rocket shot at him, and then a second later he's safe on the ground behind the bad guy. Usually only slasher movie villains have that kind of power. What? I think it's safe to say nunchucks do not work like that. You're not going to get much of a cutting edge out of 2 pieces of wood. So it turns out the stupidly named racist group is angry about the presence of aliens in New York City, so they plan to set off a nuke in the city. That's right, they're so sick of aliens attacking New York that they're going to attack New York. Take that, aliens! And now it's time for the episode to lose any chance at all of being good.
Yeah, why don't you watch where you're standing? Who is this crazy woman, Arnold?
Ma, I told you never to call me that.
So let me get this straight. They thought the whole stopping a racist group from nuking New York thing was not enough to fill out the episode, so they decided to give us wacky sitcom hijinks with Rachel meeting her future mother-in-law. Just when I think I've reached the bottom of how low these things can go.
'Cause you're, you know, special.
Really?
Yeah, occasionally the show does this thing where the aspect ratio suddenly changes. As far as I can tell, there's no consistency to it at all, so it just comes off as artsy for its own sake, which is pretty weird to see in a show about cartoon turtles. See? There's a dune buggy chase, but screw that because the episode decides what we really want to see is Casey's mother being a huge bitch. And that's really the extent of this whole subplot. The woman's a bitch and April whines and moans about it but never actually does anything about it. This is what we need to see instead of bad guys getting beaten up? Well, we do get a bit of action, but then it's back to April and Leonardo peeling apples. I'm really starting to suspect the episode happened when 2 different scripts got mixed up in the Nickelodeon printer. Wow, way to firefly it. They find the bomb, but are soon captured and... Look, stop it, it's not making any more sense. What if I just randomly change the aspect ratio of this video, like this? Or this? Or how about this? Isn't this so more exciting and extreme? They fight a bit, which starts with Skunk actually shooting at them even though they're standing right next to the nuke.
Would you mind not shooting at the thermonuclear weapons?
And then we get this gem of a line.
Look, why don't you make like a good little hate monger and disarm your nuke?
Seriously? You're using the word hate monger? Okay, episode, you have no respect for me, I have no respect for you. We have an understanding. And back to Casey's mom being a bitch to April. I'm honestly trying to figure out another way to describe it, but nothing is coming to mind. That's how hollow this whole story is.
Let's get started on the cider.
Yeah, you do that while the other turtles disarm a nuclear bomb. Nice to see you're splitting the workload evenly. Back to the story that at least has fight scenes to dull the pain. Here we're just now catching back up to the opening scene. Yep, this scene plays out exactly how we thought it would play out the first time we saw it. There was no twist whatsoever. So why did we need that opening again? Donatello screws up disarming the bomb and yells that it's about to blow. But just when you think the show is about to actually set off a nuke, it turns out Donatello took out the plutonium core before it exploded, which totally explains why he was yelling stuff like,
"The nuke's activated!"
Seriously, when you're only faking out the audience for a few seconds, what the hell's the point? Skunks left for the cops with the evidence while the rest of the group apparently gets away scot-free. I assume they're being saved for later episodes, but I really can't be bothered to look it up. But what the episode really wants you to be asking is, how's April doing? Well, it turns out all this was just a test to see if April was wife material for Casey.
I really like this girl. She passed the strength test, the patience test, the endurance test, the assertiveness test, and she makes pretty good apple cider, too.
Now, just told it right there. If April actually were that assertive, she'd dump Casey right now just to get the psycho woman out of her life. But no, she's thrilled. An ending of perfect apathy all around. I'd say this show's biggest problem is not knowing who to play to, little kids or older kids and adults. It seems they tried to please everyone and ended up pleasing no one. And here's the worst part. In 2009, they made a TV movie called Turtles Forever where the current Turtles met the 80s Turtles, and I shut it off in disgust after half an hour because it was one long attempt to make the new show look better by making the old show look worse. It's just scene after scene of the old Turtles screwing up so the new Turtles can bail them out. If I was one of the people who worked on the 80s show, I'd feel pretty insulted. If I ever do check out this franchise again, it will probably be the 80s show because I'll be assured of some campy fun that doesn't attempt to be anything more than that. Until then, see you next time on Saturday Morning Glory.
Yo, it's the Green Machine, gonna rock the town without being seen. Have you ever seen a turtle get down? Slamming and jamming to the new swing sound. Yeah, everybody let's move. Vanilla is filled with the new jack groove. Gonna rock and roll the place with the power of the Ninja Turtle bass. Iceman, you know I'm not playing. Devastate the show what the turtles are saying. Ninja, ninja, rap. Ninja, ninja, rap. Ninja, ninja, rap.
Reaganomics!